Your best teacher is your last mistake.
Starting a business at the age of 15, it might seem tough, but every good entrepreneur starts at a young age.
How can I run a business like this one day?
This is Ahmad Ahmadzia,
He's a coach with a lot of stories to tell.
and today we learn from the journeys that he's taken so far.
You gotta try it on your own.
Welcome to the Journey Towers podcast with your hosts Mahdi and Ali Almathkur.
So thank you, Brother Ahmed, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you. Could you go ahead and start off by introducing yourself to our audience?
Yeah, thank you, Brother Ali. I would say I consider myself a serial entrepreneur. Lately, I've had the fortune of working with some of our brightest minds, our students, as a science teacher. And alhamdulillah, I've learned so much from the students. And I think moving forward, there's an opportunity here where I can work with all of you from a mentorship standpoint, and you can also mentor me on some of the new technology that's coming in. But a little bit more about my background. I've been in the health and fitness industry for a little over 15 years. Started off as a personal trainer, but prior to that, I had run multiple businesses. But once I got into health and fitness, I kind of stayed that track. Worked my way up into management, and my most recent title was a vice president at the Bay Club. So, and now I am heading up finance for Rise Academy, and also I'm a science teacher.
You talked about how at the beginning you were a personal trainer. Before you got into health and fitness, you were doing a few different things. So could you elaborate a bit on your history, sort of what was the first thing, I guess, you did that you took on a journey after school and after college, I'd say?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say my journey of entrepreneurship started in high school. So it was 10th grade, and we had open campus. So during lunchtime, I would walk around, and we would go to an establishment, a restaurant, or whatnot. And I came across this business. It was called the Game Exchange. It was a video game store, and it was run by a brother. His name was Musa. And stopping by and talking to him, I asked him just one day, like, how can I run a business like this one day? I'm trying to save up money to buy a computer. He was kind enough to say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, not knowing me very well, he said, why don't you take some of my inventory, take it to a swap meet, and just bring me back my cost, and you can keep the profit. So I first didn't know to even, if I could even accept that offer. Granted, I was 16 years old. But reluctantly, I said, okay. I talked to my father about it. My dad said, hey, if this is something that you want to try, go ahead and give it a try. So I picked up the inventory that weekend. I went to a swap meet, open air market. We set up our table, and lo and behold, I sold $500 worth of product. Wow. And my eyes opened up to the possibilities. And out of that $500, about $200 of it was profit for me towards my personal computer that I can use for school. So I went back to him, and I thanked him, and I said, can I get a little bit more inventory? He was kind enough to give me a little bit more inventory, and then said, hey, I think moving forward, if this is what you want to do, this is something that that could be fruitful for you part-time. Here's some ideas on how to do it. So he kind of opened my eyes to what the possibility is. For me, making $200 in one day as a 16-year-old, it was a dream, right? Because you think of all the things that you can spend money on. So I ended up doing that, and within a couple of months, I identified where my sources were. So I ended up buying off of eBay a lot. I remember I used to wait for the Wednesday newspapers to show up because they had an area for sale under electronics. So it'd be like Sega Genesis with 12 games, the best offer. And I would run to the phone, I would make those calls, and I would go scoop up the video games. And I would go in and I would sell it in the open air market. Within a couple of years, the business turned pretty serious. I was probably raking in about $2,000 to $3,000 in revenue on a good weekend. And over $1,000 that was left profit for me. And I would say it helped from a financial standpoint because most of my siblings, if not all of my siblings, were still at school. And we're first-generation immigrants that have come in from Afghanistan. And, we're in a situation where the focus has always been school, not necessarily, pushing in and starting businesses. Alhamdulillah, it helped pay for my college as well in the early years of my marriage. And then there was a fork in the road where I decided that, hey, maybe selling tangible products, although it's fun, it doesn't necessarily inspire me as it did in the beginning. And then that's how I transitioned into health and wellness once I picked up my my undergrad degree in business administration.
That is cool. That is a really cool journey. Like, it's very inspiring to see that you started at a young age, right? Something a lot of our viewers probably would want to do as well, start a business when they're younger. But you talked about having that guy that was there for you when you wanted inventory. Can you mention like the importance of having like a mentor or someone to give you that boost in the beginning, and how would you like find them? Is it like by luck, or do you go looking for them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say finding a mentor, finding someone that can kind of take you under their wings. It just be open with them. You know, have a conversation. You know, the way I opened that opportunity for myself, first of all, I acknowledged what he had done was amazing. He had multiple stores at that point, and you know, I let him know that this is something that I want to inspire to do or to be like as well, to be a business owner. And I also put a little cause around it. I said, I'm not just doing this to get rich. I'm trying to buy a computer. And then just have open dialogue and just be honest. And the right mentor will come along and would want to help you, because everyone needs a start. Everyone needs a start. Everyone needs to have that one conversation that could potentially change the trajectory of their lives. So now I'm trying to provide that for the students that come to me and say, hey, Coach Ahmad, I have an idea. You know, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? And I try to give them some business blueprints on how to go about doing it. But the best way of doing it is just going out there and trying, and failing, you know, multiple times before you can actually succeed.
So going back to when that guy offered you the video game inventory, you said you were kind of hesitant. You didn't know whether you should go ahead with it and stuff. What was kind of going through your mind then? Do you know that, like, were you just scared that you were going to not succeed selling it, or you like, and like, how did you come up with a plan for selling it?
Honestly, I just thought that I might lose the inventory, right? Something might happen and I can't afford to pay it back. I knew about open air markets because, you know, when we first came to this country, you know, we were trying to figure out how to make money. So there was an opportunity here where we would go to like yard sales and pick up inventory from people who were selling it. Then we would go to a swap meet and sell it. But it was more houseware items and things like that. So my eyes were already open to the resale market. But now having, you know, a steady flow of inventory coming in really solidified me as a business, where now I didn't necessarily have to go hunt for the equipment all the time. I ended up where I was working with large distributors by the time I kind of wrapped up that business. But yeah, a part of me was like, I'm 16 years old, you're giving me all this inventory, what if I lose it, what's going on? And it just came down to trust. He said, look, there's something about you. I can see there's something about you, and I want to help you. And that's all it took, that level of trust.
Yeah, that's really interesting, talking about like the level of trust you gain with that person. But it comes through like you said, open dialogue, right? So being able to talk. Any advice you have, like on, for example, networking or talking to other people and, you know, building your skills and talking? Was that like something you touch on?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. It's all about your circle of influence, right? And my philosophy is always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Like seriously, people who have been accomplished or have accomplished great things, because you can only learn from them. And that's been my philosophy all the time, is like, if I see someone that has a degree that I'm looking to attain, that has a certificate that I'm looking to attain, or that has a business that inspires me, if I have that opportunity, if I have 10 minutes with them, I'll talk to them. And number one, let them know that I understand as a business owner and a serial entrepreneur how hard it is to get something like that up and running and how I admire them. But more importantly, just, you have any nuggets of information, right? Is there anything that I can kind of take away? And it's not necessarily you have to take away and make it your own all the time. It might not necessarily be the way you want to move forward, but everyone has value to add. And the more people you talk to, the more nuggets of information that you can pick up, and you can mold into how you want to operate a business, how you want to operate a relationship, how you want to manage your employees, strategic thinking, which is another big one. How do you want to move forward in the next couple of years?
Interesting. So let's talk a bit about, let's say you never went ahead. At 16 years old, you never sold that game, the video game inventory. Where do you think you'd be right now if you hadn't taken that step you hadn't gone on that journey?
Taking that risk.
Yeah, taking the risk. Where do you think you'd be right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I honestly don't know. What I do know about my personality is I like to always try new things. I'm on my 5th business right now. And I would probably still be a serial entrepreneur. I may just have taken a different trajectory. Yeah.
Interesting.
I see. So a little bit about like the serial entrepreneur part. So you said you're on your 5th business, right? Can you take us through like the phases in your life to where you started at 16, like flipping video games, to what was your next business after that? Can you mention a little bit about that?
Yeah, so once I wrapped up the video game business, which was pretty lucrative, I wrapped that up. I had gotten married and I finished my my undergrad degree in business administration. My option was entrepreneurship. And, I decided to focus on health and wellness. Most of my siblings are physicians. My dad was a physician. My mom was a nurse back home. And I had a serious conversation with myself and what I wanted to do in the near future, which was, go to medical school, go to physical therapy school, become a registered dietitian, or focus on preventative health, which was personal training. And I knew if I went into personal training, a whole new world would have opened up. Like, you can be an independent contractor and run your own business. So that's kind of how I got into that side of it, which was I want to be a personal trainer. I like that one-on-one relationship that I have with my clients, and I can get them from point A to point B. Because I like intuitively, I like to help people, whether it's mentoring them, whether it's with their health and fitness goals and whatnot. So that would be a second business, as becoming like an independent contractor, working for studios, and having an online personal training business as well. Another business that I started up, I got into a SaaS model, basically, mobile applications. It was in the realm of health and wellness. I had worked my way up into what they call an assistant general manager position. You're like kind of second in command of running a large operation. And I stepped away from that because I wanted to try to merge technology and wellness together. And be able to work with other personal trainers and other health clubs and cater to their membership base, but provide them health and nutrition and workout, I would say, templates to make them more effective at it. Because the philosophy was, if I'm a personal trainer and I only see you twice a week, I only see you for 2 hours a week, right? How else am I connecting with you outside of here? Now, if there was a mobile app where I can, as your coach, see your food logs as your coach and provide real-time feedback for you, and also use the templates that are there and provide workouts for you, and then you can mark it as done, then I can see it, I can visually see it. I think that was very powerful, right? Unfortunately, pre-COVID, a lot of people didn't really focus on that. And then once COVID hit and all the gyms shut down, it became like the big thing, right? So I was probably a few years too early in regards to that, yeah. Another business was that I got into an import business. So once we started flipping video game inventory, I got into the accessory business with private labels, as they call it, white labels. Yeah, so we got into a point where I was working with a relative of mine through marriage, a cousin of mine through my wife's uncle, you would call him basically a relative. He had a large warehouse, so him and I partnered up and we got into importing. So we were importing truckloads and pallets of video game accessories, like controllers and all of those things. So that kind of was a branch of that as well. And then when I transitioned out of that business, when I transitioned out of the mobile application business, I did that for about 2.5 years. I ended up buying a franchise. It's called Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. There's about 600 locations in the U.S., so I own one of the locations with my sister-in-law, and we've been operating that for about 7 years as well. I'm more on strategy and business development. She's more operations, but that relationship works for us. So it's like, what's next? On top of investments, I always have my hand in something.
Interesting. So let's talk a bit about a few challenges that you faced throughout the different journeys that you've taken. You talked about there was like a fork in the road that led you kind of towards the path of becoming a personal trainer. So could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I think I've always had an interest in nutrition and health and fitness. Always. Even before high school, I always thought about, what's the most optimal way I can work out? What's the most optimal way I can give myself, the sustenance, the food that can help me get from point A to point B. And I understood that there was a lot of challenges around that, and people had a lot of challenges around that. You know, when you look at the obesity rates, you look at heart disease, blood pressure, and all of those things. And I tried at that time to volunteer at the hospital, and just the clinical setting wasn't for me. So I said, you know what am I going to do now? How can I help? And I thought to myself, okay, well, if I'm not going to get into sick care, as I called it, I want to get into preventative care. How about I take business away from the doctors, right? So I had this kind of running joke in my head that, you know, I'm going to try to prevent you from getting to a doctor and getting a prescription, right? We're going to try to do this the right way. And that's what the physicians and primary care physicians want, is let's make those lifestyle changes ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about all of the costs and medications and side effects associated with it, you know, at a later point. And when I looked at all the pros and cons of the different career fields, just that fitness piece really stood out. And that's when I picked up the certification. And it was hard. Like, they gave me my first client, and I didn't know what to do with the client outside of what I read in a book. Like, you have to really make sure that the exercises that you recommend, the food logs that you're looking at are accurate. So it's important that you also have a mentor in the industry as a new personal trainer, because you're getting individuals that are coming in with back pain, with neck pain, with high blood pressure. I've worked with late stage Parkinson's clients as well, where mobility is a big issue. And, you know, if one wrong exercise could potentially exacerbate some of the symptoms that they have. So you have to take this very seriously. And luckily for me, I had good mentors all along the way. And I just kept asking questions. Does this make sense? Does that make sense? Would you do this differently? And that's always been that personality, is making sure that, hey, I don't have all the answers, but if I can work with like-minded individuals that know a little bit more than me, I can serve this client. It's always been that service mentality, whether it's in the hospitality industry, the health club industry, or more on a one-on-one setting, that most interests me.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just to throw it out there, just a little curious. Like, so you said you had your first client, right? You didn't know what to do with them, and probably over time you built up your skills and like with the training other people, obviously building your skills. But have you ever encountered someone who, for example, was angry for some reason or didn't like the service that you provided, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good one, because they call it personal training for a specific reason, because it's so personable. It's one-on-one, and sometimes your teaching style doesn't necessarily match up with the learning style. So in the beginning of my career, I just took on all clients, and then as I progressed and picked up more hours as far as experience goes, picked up additional advanced certifications, I ended up getting a master's degree in exercise science and health promotion and rehab. I was more selective on who I brought on board, and made sure that we're very clear from the get-go, like, if you're going to work with me, here's my expectations. What are your expectations, right? For example, I had a client that said, okay, I'll sign up with you. We'll do 30 sessions in the beginning of my career. And into my head, I was like, great. I have a commitment for almost 3 months. I can take this client from point A to point B, not understanding that they're a creature of habit. They only like to do one thing, which is give me a routine. I'm going to do that for the next 3 months. And you just walk around the whole time, 3 times a week, and just watch me do it. Well, am I really do I really want to be a chauffeur at the gym? Like, you can do that with somebody else, right? Because I'm like in my head, okay, well, you're in bed, you get up and you sit in a car, you drive to work, you're sitting at your desk 10, 12 hours a day, you sit in your car, you drive back home, you sit on the couch after dinner, when you're sitting and eating dinner, you sit on the couch, and then you want me to come with you to the gym, to the workout floor, and have you sit on all of the pieces of machines, equipment again? How does that make sense, right? Because this philosophy of cramming a weight floor with all these machines and having them sit, you're only going to make it worse for them. So it was a challenge, because that's all they wanted to do. And I was trying to slowly sprinkle in, like, hey, maybe we can stand up and work out, because you need to work your whole kinetic chain. Your body was not designed to sit and push and pull. Your body was designed to reach, to step down, to actually take a 20-pound bag of Idaho potatoes from your trunk and carry it and put it on your kitchen counter. If I can't get you ready for that as a 45-year-old and you throw your back out, then that's on me as your trainer. So it was hard getting that point across. But over time, we worked through that conflict, and I gave him a little bit of what he wanted, but at the same time, I tried to push through what I felt that he needed in a way that made sense to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting.
Makes sense, yeah. So I'm sure you've changed a lot as a person since you embarked on this journey of entrepreneurship. What are the main ways that you've changed, and what would you do differently, let's say you were starting on that path again?
Yeah, I remember I had my first director role when I was 25 or 26 years of age. Most of the people around me within that range of career standpoint, they were probably at least 5 to 10 years my senior. And I thought, when I first became a manager, I thought, well, I have a title, right? That title gives me specific rights to tell you what to do. And that really came back and kind of bit me in the rear end, because I was not inspiring my employees. I was basically pushing them and leading by title. That means telling them what to do and managing them versus leading them from point A to point B. And it was tough. I had a lot of sleepless nights, because I'm like, well, why can't they just listen to what I'm saying? Why do they have to make it so difficult? Well, I'm not dealing with a robot. I'm not dealing with machine learning. I can't just plug something in and expect for them to do it without building a relationship with them first. And a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of mistakes. Meetings were pretty tense. And I remember kind of some of my aha moments was when one of my employees went around my back and told my boss that it's really hard to walk around Ahmad because it feels like you're walking on eggshells. And that was like, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong here? And I knew I needed another mentor. So I was fortunate enough to work with a gentleman named Jared with the company that I was working for. Him, just like Musa, he saw something in me. And he said, look, I think you're the real deal. I want to be able to work with you and mentor you. And he was 10 years my senior, and he was running the best operation within the company. So the executive team okayed it, and he flew down just to meet with me multiple times to coach me and to guide me on how to work with my team. And I remember that year we hit $1 million in revenue, which was a big deal. And all of a sudden, the morale of my employees, it picked up, right? We started working as one unit. There wasn't, we minimized the politics. And I learned to be vulnerable. I learned to be open and say, look, I've made mistakes. Let's work through this. And one of my last leadership roles before I came to Rise Academy, I took over a club where I was the new person there, and from all of the years of the mistakes that I've made, I made sure that I don't make those same mistakes. And I came in from, how can I best support you? What are your needs? How can I support you here? What are some of your challenges? Versus, here's the directives that I've got, execute. Because that's not going to work, right? You have to be able to filter the information that's coming in from above, and based off of your relationship, work with them, right? And another quote, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard this many years ago, and it stuck with me, is that you don't want to light a fire beneath your employees' feet. You want to light a fire inside them, right? You want to inspire them and motivate them. You don't want to have a compliance team that's very compliance focused. You have to follow the rules, right? You want a team that's committed to the cause that hopefully you've articulated, that's committed to the goal of where the business is going, and more importantly, that's committed to each other, right? I'm committed to you, you're committed to me, we're going to work together. So all of those things over the years I've learned the hard way on how to lead and inspire, if that makes sense.
I really like that. I really like that quote that you said with the, you can't light the fire under your employees' feet, you have to light it in their heart, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to touch a little bit on leadership. So, for example, for me, I'll say something. So I work at Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. And at Chick-fil-A, they have a really high, they're really pushing leadership, right? They're trying to have our leaders connect with us on a deeper level than just employee to that, right? So can you touch on a little bit how someone could develop their skills in leadership, starting from a younger age, when you said 16, right? You were doing your business. Took a lot of leadership to go up and ask the guy, hey, can I have the inventory, right? So can you touch on a little bit how someone can develop leadership qualities?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of paths that you can take, and there's a lot of different styles of leadership. I think number one is you just need to have this thirst for knowledge, right? This thirst for, I need to go out there and I need to understand what type of information is out there that I can absorb, that I can use. Like, I remember I was at a point where I was reading at least one book a month on leadership. And, whether it was Maxwell, whether it was another leader or Simon Sinek, his TED Talks and his books, I always try to pick up different information of why some companies do so well, why some leaders inspire, and, what's their secret. And I also looked at sports too, some of the high-level coaches and how they have so many winning seasons, right? Those are leadership skills that you harness, that you sharpen, and that you hopefully utilize, and you can get a team to go from point A to point B versus a team that is, dysfunctional or allows politics to get in the way. What I look for in a leader is how people already interact with them without a title. Sometimes you don't need a title to be a leader, right? Sometimes you are the person that other people go to for advice. Sometimes you are the person that can maintain their emotions. And during a time of stress and difficulty, you want to go to someone that is composed, not frantic, right? Even though you're stressed inside, it's hard. As a leader, you need to be very careful on how you express yourself and express your emotions. I'm not saying act like a robot, but your words really matter. Right? They really, really do, right? Hey, this is my boss. Does my boss have my best interest in heart? If I don't feel that I have trust with my senior leaders, then it's really hard for me to stay here, right? So reading is one thing. I remember I knew that I had challenges communicating in a public setting. I liked speaking, but formally speaking, getting a message across was challenging for me. And I was lucky enough in one of our operations as a young manager, there was an organization that popped up called Toastmasters International. If you're not aware of Toastmasters International, what they do is they develop leaders and they develop you from a public speaking standpoint. And they have years of modules to a point where you can become a distinguished Toastmaster. So you're sitting in a room full of like-minded individuals, some of them in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, some of them that are retired, and they all want to hone in public speaking, right? And your first speech, I believe, if I remembered, it was called a persuasive speech, and you have to persuade your audience. And then there's a couple of people there that are sitting. Like, one is your timer, because you have 3 to 5 minutes. One person, I believe, is your germ counter, what they call germ words. The germ words are filler words in your mind where you want to think about what you're going to say next, and you say, and so, because what happens is that when you're communicating that way, and if somebody's really listening to you, it really takes away from the message that you're trying to hammer, right? So I learned that the pause is very powerful.
Yeah.
Right? You felt it, right?
Yeah,
the fact that I paused. And I learned all of those things through Toastmasters. And there was an individual that was saying that within his organization, they feel that if you become a distinguished Toastmaster, you go through all of these competitions and all of these modules, it can even be better than an MBA that people spend over $100K on, right? So reading, Toastmasters International, going to workshops, watching TED Talks, practice, right? Being out in front of people. I've been in front of people and I've failed multiple times, and that's how I've learned. And outside of that, just having mentors that you can look up to, that can tell you if you're doing something wrong, that can support you and guide you in the right way. I mean, all of those things are very critical.
So before we wrap up with the final few words, what, I guess, advice as a health coach and as an entrepreneur, as you've had all these experiences, what would be the key points of advice that you would give to people who are about to embark on a journey, whether it be high school students, college students, that sort of age? What would be the main points of advice that you would give?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think if you're in high school or in college, you've got a lot of opportunity, and you have an opportunity to fail multiple times. And this other phrase that, I always get in trouble because I can't quote it to the right person, is like, your best teacher is your last mistake, right? Not all of my businesses have succeeded, right? So for me, it's like, okay, how do I iterate and build on top of some of the things that I've learned, right? I realized quickly that the SaaS business model is not for me. I need to move away from sitting behind a desk for 15 hours a day and making cold sales calls and really getting out there and engaging with the community. That's the direction that I want to go. So just remember that. If you make a mistake, use that as a learning opportunity and use it as a springboard to the next opportunity, Preferably find it in an industry that you have a little bit of an intrinsic passion for, right? Health and fitness and wellness, recovery. I liked it. I enjoyed those topics. And I'm not saying this is a hobby, but if you have an opportunity to kind of jump in there a little bit and really understand that, you can potentially make a business out of it, right? And then, just go out and engage with the community, identify needs within the community, and figure out how you can fill those needs that could potentially give a 10x return. Like, one of the areas that I've been trained on is, okay, what problems can I solve? The bigger the bigger the problem, right, the more opportunity there is. So I use this analogy. I learned this from one of my mentors. His name is Todd Durkin. From the health and wellness industry, he's very well known. And I joined his mastermind group for years. And I would just hear him speak, and I would hear him talk, and I would go to specific workshops that he would lead, and I would be with like-minded individuals in the health and fitness industry. And he would say, what's the net of service that you have, right? If you're helping 10 people, okay, you're going to be compensated for helping 10 people. If you're helping 100 people, if your solution offers to help 100 people, then most likely you'll get compensated for helping 100 people, right? Now imagine if your technology, your service, your product helps 1,000 people or 10,000 people, right? All of a sudden your window of opportunity increases drastically. That's got 10x, right, return, hopefully from a business model standpoint, right? As we call, like, what does the market look like? What does the market opportunity look like? And for me, my philosophy has always been, whether you're operating your own business or you're a leader within an organization, as I worked my way up, I was serving a team of 20, and then I worked my way up to an AGM. I was serving a team of 200. When I worked my way up to a VP level, I was responsible in serving. I used that as serving close to 500 individuals before, COVID hit and all of those things happened as well. So there's a lot of angles that you can take, but just go out and go fail as many times as you can and just find your way, right? And hopefully you can find some mentors that can help you along the way as well.
That's
Good
awesome.
points.
That's great. So again, just to wrap up a little bit, if there was one piece of advice someone watching this could take away from what we've said so far, what would it be?
One piece of advice is you got to try it on your own. You got to get out there and do it on your own. Like, when I have people come to me and say, I have idea X and idea Y, how far have you gotten past the idea stage? Okay, go make a phone call, right? Say, hey, I have a business proposition. Would you be interested? Okay, what type of need are you trying to fill, right? Have that conversation. It's only through that you can say, okay, do I have a business model or not? If I create X and Y, would you be able to, upfront the money so I can create this SaaS product, or where I can create this app, or I can work on this invention that I'm working on? Go out there and have conversations, and through those conversations, problems will arise, and solve those problems if you want to move forward.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Great points. Thank you so much. I mean, I felt so much, especially the point you made at the end of going from the idea stage to actually executing it. That's something that I find very tough, but I'm working on that, especially with this podcast and stuff. I mean, for the longest time, you can ask Ali, we've had it in the idea stage, but we finally managed to make it happen. So
I'm very proud of you too.
Thank you so much for joining us here.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure to check out our upcoming episodes on all the major platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music.
This was the Journey Towers podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Ahmad Hadi and Ali Almathkur, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care.